Today I'm going to be taking my tomato plant and moving it from a 2-gallon pot to this one, which is in between 4 and 5-gallon pot. I'm going to use this potting soil here. It's good for container gardening. And I'm also going to put pea gravel down at the bottom just because it rains a lot here. I got this pot from Lowe's today. What's nice about it is you can pull off this top from it and you can see that there's plenty of space for water to come out, and then this is kind of like a humidity tray a bit. But I'm still going to put gravel down because more often than not, even with stuff like this, I end up having to tip it over and dump water out of it. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'll set the camera up and show you how it goes. Alright, so I got maybe 1.5 inches of gravel here. I just stick my finger in and I know, okay, about right here, it's about 1.5 inches. Okay, now I filled it up a bit with this potting mix. It was just something on sale. It has plus fertilizer in it, feeds up to 9 months. I think that's important to note because when I started getting into fertilizing plants, I wasn't really paying attention to what soil already came with fertilizer, and I think some of them got over fertilized. Specifically this one here. This is a white bird of paradise, and its leaves were not like this, but pretty much right when I put it in the ground, I put fertilizer, and then I realized there was a ton of fertilizer already in the plant, and I think now it's kind of recovering from that mistake still. So I patted it down just kind of like this. Nothing obviously too crazy, but towards the top I try to let the soil crumble a little bit more, but at the bottom I just go ahead and pack it down so that way if I water it, it doesn't shift too much and then really feel like it's just sinking too quickly too much. So now I'll put the plant in. Okay, so I put it in there. Some things to note is right when you're done, you're supposed to water it a lot. And also, when you plant it, make sure that it doesn't come up higher. Excuse my cat. Make sure it doesn't come up higher on the stem than it did when it was in the previous pot. Don't try to like cover any of this. That'll really ruin the plant quick. Try to make sure all the leaves aren't really being bothered too much by the dirt. So when you water it, just go kind of at a pace where it's slow but continuous. Water it a little bit and then give it a couple seconds to go into the dirt, and then water it a couple seconds, and when it starts taking a little bit longer and longer for the water to seep in, that's when you know you're done. A lot of times that could be overwatering the plant, but right when you just potted it, it's appropriate. Casey. So that should be it. This is, like I said, in between a 4 and 5-gallon pot, which should be plenty of space to grow a couple pretty big tomatoes. This, for comparison, is actually a lot bigger than what I bought for this one originally. And you can see the size difference here. It's grown a lot more. It started off a lot smaller, like I said, but this is about a month after buying it at about this size. I moved it from a pot smaller than this size to the 2-gallon, and now I think it's ready for the 5-gallon. I think sometimes that if you put a plant in a big pot too early, it's possible that its roots aren't really strong enough to survive against I guess more stuff that can happen in a bigger pot, whether it be bugs or over watering or anything. One more thing, I guess, about the pot. I read online that they paint cable boxes this color. At Disney World, they paint all the trash cans this color. This color green is supposed to really blend in to not draw your eye to it. If you want it to pop out a little bit more, obviously you can use some of the brighter colors. So this is the finished product here. There's 2 tomato plants, bush Goliaths, in 2 5-gallon containers. You can see they have little flowers starting to bloom here. And hopefully soon we'll have some tomatoes from those. A trick that a lot of people say is to blow on them or give them a little jiggle. It helps the pollen spread. You can also see I have a little bit of a tomato cage going on, and a lot of times they can grow up to be this big and they need a little bit of support. Maybe you can tell too, right now it looks like they're in a shady spot in the yard, but with how the sun's moving over the summer especially, they'll be in a pretty sunny spot before long. So to capture what I was getting at today, usually when you have a starter plant, people know what to do. You take the plant, you put it in a pot, you put dirt in it and watch it. A little bit later on, maybe a month or 2 after that initial repotting, you can go ahead and do it again. Figure out what size it needs. So for a tomato plant, I got it in a small little cup. I moved it to a 2-gallon, and now I moved it to a 5-gallon, which I think it should stay for the remainder of its time. And the fertilizer that I use should last the rest of the growing season. I have the cages so that the tomatoes can feel supported when they start to grow. And yeah, to keep an eye on the flowers and give them a little jiggle from time to time. So that's all I have for today for the tomato plants.